Well, folks, we've got some rain tonight into early Thursday morning, and then a bit of calmness before we get a upper trough, a coastal low that develops, and between the two of them, we may squeeze out a little bit of snow for later Friday night into Saturday, and that's going to be followed by the coldest air of the very young winter season so far, which actually officially gets underway Friday. Correct, Joe Rayo? Saturday? Oh, well, then just in time. And of course, before that happens, we have tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which of course you can support by using the affiliate link pinned to the top of the chat board to do your Amazon shopping. Still time to get somebody some holiday gifts. And if you do, you get your stuff just by putting in something in the search bar and making a purchase. And Amazon will throw us back a little bit of coin, which does not come out of your pocket, folks. It comes out of Amazon's pocket. It's a simple, easy way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. I know some of you have actually done that, and we very much appreciate your support. So, Mr. Rayo, you know what I'm going to put up on the air tonight? I said, do you know what I am going to put up on the air tonight? No, it's not a person. It's a model. Yes. No. No. Well, it's a model that I think they may have actually used in a Honeymooners episode. You want to guess? Oh, you should know this. Well, they make a reference to it on the Honeymooners. Norton makes a reference to it. Le Plumes. No, no, Le Plumes. Le Plumes de la Brioche. Le Plume. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Return your that raccoon hat. Oh, you're right. They can't. Hold on. Uh, okay. Testing. One, two, three. Talk to me.
Testing,
Now you
testing
got
one,
it.
two.
Sorry about that, folks. Ever since Windows, ever since the last Windows update, my audio got reset yet again. Okay, so what I was saying was we'll start the show over.
Yes, start it all over.
Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Uh, uh, Joe, I am going to be putting up a model that we really haven't looked at for a while, certainly from the standpoint of snow. And there's a honeymooners reference to it, since the joke was already played and nobody heard it. Le
Okay.
Plumes.
Le
Okay.
Plumes de la Brioche.
Yeah, wait till you see Le Plumes. But in
Okay.
the meantime, before we get to that, um, so we've got this rain that's coming through tonight with this weather front and this wave that's going along. It looks like a quarter to a half an inch. I think that's fair, correct?
I would say a half inch might be pushing it. A quarter certainly is a lock. Maybe more like a third. Doesn't really look like a whole heck of a lot. And I think that at least here in the lower Hudson Valley, it'll be all but over with by midnight.
Okay. So then this front comes through. It stalls out offshore. Little high builds up in eastern Canada. Then you've got this upper trough that's going to be coming in. And well, anyway, before we even get to that, Joe's got the radars tonight, folks. So go ahead, Joe.
Okay, these are not the radars I usually show because the radars that I usually show from the website that I usually use said, "Oh, we're sorry, but for about 2 to 3 hours beginning at 22Z, there won't be any data available." So I have to revert to these radars, which come from our friends at the National Weather Service. This is Upton and or New York City, and you could see that at least for the lower Hudson Valley, northern Jersey, New York City, and a good part of Long Island, as well as all of Connecticut. there is indeed rain that is falling right now, and that's going to be the story again for the next several hours, at least until about midnight, and then things will begin to dry out, and toward daybreak tomorrow morning, clear out. Let's take a look. This is the forecast, not the forecast, but the radar out of Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is showing again quite clearly from northeastern Maryland across northern Delaware. Somehow or other, much of central and southern New Jersey is not seeing any precipitation, but northern Jersey and a good chunk of eastern Pennsylvania is. And again, all the way up to the Hudson Valley and Connecticut and most of Long Island, we're seeing some rain. We go back to the west, and we're looking now. I'm not sure what I think we're looking at the Washington, D.C. radar. They're getting some pretty good rain in the nation's capital across most of Maryland, except for the far western areas like Garrett County, and also for much of central and eastern Pennsylvania. They are again seeing mainly rainy conditions. To the north we go. This is, I believe, from State College. And this is the break that I'm speaking of. This is, I mentioned that we'll see the rain in the tri state area till about midnight. But as you can see, everything is moving along at a fairly good clip from west to east. So what you're seeing here, the back edge of the rain is over in central Pennsylvania using Alan Casper's Pittsburgh rule of precipitation moving from Pittsburgh to New York in 8 hours. Central Pennsylvania, that would be about what, 4 hours. So it's about 7:40. So add 4 hours to that, and that back edge that you see there probably will be crossing the tri-state area again around or maybe just before midnight, and that pretty well will signal the end of the rains that we're seeing right now. One more stop. Let's go south. Well, we already been to Washington. Let's go further south. Not exactly sure. This might be Richmond, Virginia, or Roanoke, Virginia, and you can see the most of western and central sections of Virginia, as well as the far northern edge of Tennessee, and also northwestern Georgia are seeing areas of rain and showers. And again, everything moving generally on a west to east course. And so, again, what we're seeing right now, Joe, pretty much will be over with in many areas by or soon after midnight. And that sets the stage for a dry day on Thursday. And then we're going to watch a clipper coming our way for the end of the week, which may deliver not only colder weather for the upcoming weekend, in fact, probably the coldest weather we have seen so far this season, but also a touch of snow for some, and that would be for later Friday, Friday night, and early on Saturday.
I think from at least, certainly from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, um, I think we've seen more cold air masses come down this month than we saw all of last winter.
Yes, I would have to.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah, and we didn't really see all that much in the way of cold weather. Maybe a couple of shots, one in, I remember, early to mid January last year, and another
Right.
for a short while in February. But yeah, we're seeing yet another break off of cold air that's going to be pouring down into our area. And this one, as I said, should be the coldest of all. In fact, on my Facebook forecast for the lower Hudson Valley, I actually have a single digit temperature for Sunday night. Saturday is going to be pretty cold, but I think the coldest is going to be Sunday night when temperatures could be in the upper single digits before we begin a noticeable warm up early next week.
Yeah, I went upper single digits and low teens since yesterday, and I'm sticking to it. And of course, we'll see what we're going to talk about this system for Friday night into Saturday morning. Meanwhile, where that clipper is going to exert a bit more punch is in the upper Midwest and back to North Dakota. We got winter storm warnings up tonight for much of the you cut North Dakota on a diagonal and then continue that line southeastward through Minnesota. Good chunk of Minnesota is either under winter storm warnings or winter weather advisories. And the same for Wisconsin. Looks like the middle part of the state, including Green Bay, in a winter storm warning, while Madison and Milwaukee are under winter weather advisories. And of course, the Clipper on the south side is producing very strong winds. We have high wind watches up for parts of northern Nebraska much of western South Dakota into southwest North Dakota and across the state of Montana, and for a number of counties in Wyoming and even into north central Colorado. Both coasts are not really showing much else. Looks like we also have some winter weather advisories up for a small portion of northern West Virginia into southwest PA. And I'm thinking this is from what? Is this from This is from tonight with for freezing drizzle and ice accumulations of a light glaze of less than 1 inch. So that's what they say over there. So it must be cold enough in the highest elevations there on the backside of this first front in order to produce a touch of icing. And here's what it looks like on the satellite loop. It's just very flat here. When you look at something that's like a ruler, basically, from Louisiana to Maine, I mean, that tells you there's just a frontal boundary with a flat wave on it that's moving along and is producing rain. And then, of course, you can still already see the energy of the Clipper system that Joe mentioned in northeast Montana that's moving eastward into the Dakotas. And that's going to eventually reach the mid-Atlantic and southern New England come Friday night into Saturday morning. The Southwest is fine and dandy. So was much of the Southeast down to Florida. Not by me. I was sucked in with clouds just about all day. We actually had a little bit of sun. I should take that back. We did break out into some sunshine. The temperature got to 70, and then we had some big downpours when the frontal boundary pushed through, and the temperature here at my house fell 15 degrees in about 12 minutes, which was, went from 70 down to 55. And I think, what is it now?
You're not
50,
exaggerating, are you?
52. No, it really did. It went from 70 to like 55 in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
It was very fast. It rained really hard. I didn't hear any thunder, but it certainly rained hard enough that you might think there was a thunderstorm around. And here's what it looks like on the wide radar view. A little bit of snow on the northern edge of this in northern New York and northern New England. Light to moderate rain. Joe showed you the radars going down into Virginia. They thin out a bit as you head down into eastern Tennessee and northern Georgia, but you still have some showers to work through there. And then we've got the Clipper system moving through Montana and now spreading snow across North Dakota. Actually, it's a pretty solid area of snows that have developed there. The Storm Prediction Center has no severe weather forecast for the next 3 days, which is no surprise. WPC is looking at um, a half an inch. Now, most of this is tonight. A little bit of this is for Friday night and Saturday, but the total of all of this is a half an inch to 3/4 in southeastern New England, a quarter of an inch or less everywhere else, and even in some places for the next 7 days in the east, a tenth of an inch or less. Little bulge of a half to 3/4 in the lower Mississippi Valley. Also, an area of half to 3/4 across Wisconsin, where we've got the winter storm warnings up, and also in parts of North Dakota. And we're talking about several to many inches again for the next 7 days from Northern California northward up to Oregon, Western Washington, and into British Columbia. Now, with respect to that snow, looks like a band of about 6 to 8 inches in that winter storm warning area from North Dakota into Wisconsin, including the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, by the way, where they're going. There's some 8 to 10 numbers there. Several to six from south to north in Michigan, and also now some of this actually goes to Saturday evening. So most of this is from the Clipper that's in the Midwest. In the Northeast, you kind of have a mix of stuff going on because there's some snow tonight well to the north, and then you're probably going to have some lake effect going on when we get into the weekend. So we're seeing some bigger numbers in parts of western New York and on up through much of the I-90 corridor into northern New York. Several to 6 inches being indicated through Saturday evening. But yes, they do have numbers here for the coast, a coating to an inch across southeast PA, central New Jersey to Long Island, and then you go a little bit inland in northern New Jersey. It's like an inch or two. In northeastern Pennsylvania, is an inch or three. In Connecticut, it's about a coating to an inch or two in the northwest. And in the middle Hudson Valley and points north, it's about two or three. So you have that. I'm going to show you the plumes graphically, Joe. I'm going to put them up, and I actually, I didn't expect this, but the plumes are giving um, 2 to 3 inches across northern New Jersey, mainly north of 195, New York City 2.7, Yonkers 3.1, Brentwood 2.6, Bridgeport 3.1, 3.6 for Waterbury, Middletown 3.4, Bridgewater, New Jersey 2.5, Allentown 2.2, Scranton 3.3, Southeastern New England 3 to maybe 4, Boston 3.4, Providence 3, Barnstable 3, a little over 3, Worcester 3.7, Springfield 3.4. I'm actually quite shocked. I don't know what the bar chart looks like. There must be one model in that mean that's giving like 30 inches or something. I'm not sure. This is the mean of all the members there of the SREF. So it's far more bullish than what some of the other models have. We can go look at we'll take a look at the New European. By the way, these maps are courtesy of Pivotal Weather, for which I have a license and I am allowed to use. So if you look at the European, both the 12 and 18Z, basically a coating to an inch for the same areas that the SREF is going like 2, 3 or more. So, I kind of think that this is going to be a coating to an inch, Joe. Maybe there'll be a few spots that'll get a little bit more. To me, the SREF is a little bit overdone from what I'm seeing right now, unless there's some kind of surprise. And we've already had two weather systems in the last 2 weeks that have produced surprises.
Well, what we're looking at here are actually two separate storm systems. We're looking at the Clipper system that's coming down from the north and west. There's also going to be a coastal system that's going to be languishing out over the ocean east of the mid Atlantic coast. Now, what maybe the SRF is doing is rapidly moving that coastal system. Excuse me, the Clipper system. The Clipper system is the one with the energy, and
Right.
the coastal system obviously is the one that has moisture. Now, if you can get those two to teleconnect at just the right time and just at the right spot, relative or adjacent to the mid Atlantic coast, you could have a very significant and very rapidly developing snowstorm for later Friday and Friday night.
Well,
The SREF is not saying that, but the SREF is alluding to the storm, the coastal system beginning to wind up some, and as it does so, backlashing or backwashing the tri-state area with snow amounts of 1, 2, 3 inches, even close to 4 inches in some areas. But the other models, the other global models, for example, the GFS, the European, and even the NAM are both saying, the Clipper system, it's a nice looking system, and it's going to come on down and it's going to try to lateral its energy to that offshore system. But by the time that all happens, by the time it all gets together, the best that we can hope for as that coastal system begins to wind up is getting backlash maybe Friday, Friday night and early Saturday with some light snow and maybe an inch or two.
to,
Uh,
me-
so
to,
that's basically what we're looking at here.
yeah, I know, but to me, the coastal system is so far out that and I don't have a surface that shows the precip. I'm just looking at with the winds. There's a low. Friday morning, there's a low well east of Hatteras. It's already long. It kind of, then there's another center that's out at like 38 and 70, and this is Friday evening. And then it goes out. To me, I think it's all really about the upper trough that's gonna swing
Right.
by through. I think that's the primary driver of whatever snow we get, and it's going to coincide with the arrival of cold air. So the coastal low to me, when I'm looking at this, is just so far removed from everything. This is unlike what the GFS. was doing, what with that one famous run last week with the nearly 50 inches of snow in New Jersey because it sort of phased everything in a perfect world. But here's, just looking at the upper air of the 500, um, and I'm just going to roll it through. So this is now tonight, and you see this trough that's coming through. Here's the Clipper. And it's a fairly well-defined shortwave here. Sometimes you can get a separate little low that forms underneath the upper trough as it goes by. And this is Friday night into Saturday morning, and then there's a second trough that comes in behind it Saturday morning. You see it drop down the from Lake Huron, from James Bay to Lake Huron is the axis of that trough, and that swings in by Saturday afternoon. So that I think that's the arrival of the true Arctic air. So between all of this energy, I think I think there's enough here. At least when looking at the upper atmosphere, that you could make a case for a coating to an inch or maybe two in some places. I don't know if the SREF to me is just way overdone. Now, whether in subsequent runs we see an even sharper trough. That's the other thing is what we have to look for is that, do we wind up with a sharper trough that comes through? In which case, that might nudge up snow amounts a bit. But for now, I'm kind of in this ballpark of a coating to an inch, and maybe some places get as maybe two. But that would be the max.
I would agree. I would agree. I would say that 1 to maybe 2 inches is possible, especially if we get cold enough to allow the snow to stick more rapidly, as opposed to a type of initial snow that falls and melts. Initial snow, incidentally, will come during the afternoon and early evening during the semi daylight hours on Friday. So we may end up losing a little bit of snow accumulation to that. But Friday night, that's when the snow will be coming down steadiest. But again, I don't really see in this pattern. I see areas of snow, but I don't see one solid area where it could be snowing for more than a few hours straight. Which is why, as Tom Contino has been pointing out on the chat board, hey, Rayo's going for spotty light snow. Yeah, well, I don't really see uh, anything that shows a significant, steady, long duration snowfall, even a steady light snow, which could put down 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 inches. What I'm looking at is an area of broken snowfall, which when you're underneath one particular area, you could get a coating, a light coating, maybe a quarter, half an inch, and it stops, and then maybe another round a little bit later on in the night, which puts down another quarter, half an inch. So when you wake up on Saturday morning, yeah, you might actually have an inch or two of snow, but uh, still a little early. Maybe tomorrow or Friday on my Facebook page, I'll post an actual map. I haven't done that. We've already had here in the Hudson Valley, we've had a couple of snowfalls in which some places, and of course, most recently, just a day or two ago, parts of Connecticut got like 3 to 5 inches, but I didn't post a map. But maybe this might force my hand, and I might actually draw some kind of a map, if not tomorrow, maybe on Friday for possible accumulating snow. But I'm not really overly impressed
Take a
with
shot.
it.
Take a shot with it and do it tomorrow.
But we're not. Are we on tomorrow? Oh yeah, that's right. Tomorrow is Thursday,
Tomorrow's
right?
Thursday, so yeah,
Yeah. All
because we're
right.
not
So
going to be
maybe.
on for
Well,
unless
that
tomorrow we
depends.
suddenly see some bigger numbers. We're probably not going to be on Friday.
See, tomorrow I've got my grandson here, and I have to tell you, and Renato will back me up. When we have our grandson, who is now coming up on 11 months old in a couple of weeks, I mean, he's crawling all over the place, and the time that we have to relax is when we put him down for his nap, which usually is like an hour and a half in the morning and another hour in the afternoon. Although yesterday, Joe, he was not. He did not want to go in the afternoon. He did not want to
Yeah,
nighty night in the afternoon. And in fact, he actually threw a little bit of a tantrum, which frustrated us because we wanted to get the last of the Christmas lights up. So tomorrow basically is going to be a busy day for us. So unless we can have him quietly go down for at least 90 minutes and give me a chance to come down here, look at the maps, and then make some kind of a map. I may not have a map tomorrow, but we'll try. We'll give it the good old college try tomorrow for that.
right. And this high is actually going to be going. into an interesting spot as far as cold air is concerned, because this is where we get this is how we see really cold temperatures, because the flow is going to come from, basically from Labrador and go right down the East Coast on northerly winds. So you can have that Hudson Valley wind Saturday night and also Sunday night. And Sunday night into Monday morning, that's when we'll see the coldest temperatures of single digits and teens in most places. In fact, why don't I just bring up since I got the map up here, let's go to the minimum temperatures and go to Monday morning. And this is off the digital forecast here, and it's actually below zero. Albany is that -2 in Albany? Um, two above in Albany. There's some -2s near Utica, but zeros as you get further north, go way up into upstate New York. You're looking like, Plattsburgh, Glens Falls. You're looking at -6, -8. And we're looking at some double-digit below zeros in central and northern New Hampshire, and below zero readings in the interior part of Maine. So this is a very, very cold air mass. And then further south, single digits down to central New Jersey, Allentown in Pennsylvania at 8, Trenton in New Jersey at 9, teens heading all the way down through Virginia. And then you get upper teens and low 20s as you head into North Carolina, low 20s for me. I've already seen teens, so there's that. But the Blue Ridge Mountains in western North Carolina, from mid-teens in the northern part to mid-20s to the south. So this is a very solid Arctic air mass that's coming in. And what's going to be interesting to me also is the fact that that high is going to have it's going to kind of struggle a bit to pull out, depending on which model you look at. And we got another one of these. This is something like what happened just a couple of days ago, back on Sunday night, where you've got, I guess we could call it a pseudo warm front that develops and pushes into the cold air. And there's not a whole lot of warm air coming up, at least initially. So this would be for late Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, where there could be another little period of light precipitation and snow, or maybe a mix down near the coast, depending on what the temperatures are. So outside chance that there might be again a little touch of snow on the ground for Christmas if this plays out.
Or as Renato would say, oh poo.
Oh, poo, right? Yes. Um,
And
then
I just point out that what you're talking about is absolutely true. But if you were to compare, let's say it's 7 a.m. on Saturday, and you
right,
look at the surface system or systems, you see that they have a very intensifying low to the south of Nova Scotia, and
right.
you see we're in that north to northeasterly flow of air, and you say, oh my goodness, it's going to get frigidly cold behind that retreating storm system. But then when you look at the the 500 millibar, you see that what actually is happening is that we're in a southwesterly flow aloft. So it's southwest aloft. It's air that's coming or being transported toward us from, let's say, northeastern Ohio and central Pennsylvania across the tri-state area. Yes, the surface system has winds coming from the cold northeast, but that's not really going to be the true cold. But once we get into late Saturday night, let's say around 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, that's when we're going to have the upper flow bring air down from James Bay, from western Hudson Bay, straight on down into our area, and we still have that cold northerly flow at the surface. So now we have a teleconnection. Now we have the cold coming from the north, both at the surface and also at 18,000 feet above our heads, and that is transporting cold air advection all the way into our area. As you pointed out, Joe, some of the coldest air that we usually see. That's the airflow that, heck, when we are into January or February, and if that happens, let's say off of a good snow cover, that's where we can see temperatures, even in New York City, drop to or even below zero. We don't have
Yeah.
the snow cover yet, but it is going to be, by the time we get to late Saturday night, early Sunday, the coldest airflow that we can have here in the Northeast, and that's why it's going to be turning so much colder over the upcoming weekend, especially so Saturday night and on into Sunday.
And just looking quickly at the long range, because once this trough pulls out, we are going to lose the flow from Canada, which becomes mostly west to east, as well as the flow across the United States. There's actually some ridging in the eastern part of the U.S. You see it there. You got that red, brown, and purple. So that's in the east, and you got all the blue stuff in the troughing in the west. And that's going to last probably through the last days of December. And then eventually the models start to try to shift the trough a little bit more to the east. There's a little bit more of a Canada connection when we get into the first days of the new year. But as we all know in the long range, it's pretty tenuous, whatever it shows. The only thing I did notice, by the way, I'm just going to go back to the 12Z run of the GFS in the at the 10 millibar level for the stratosphere. I did notice that the polar vortex, Joe, when we get to the last days of December, starts stretching again, and you get this, orientation where the flow is coming from um, Siberia across the Arctic down through Canada and um, into the Great Lakes and into the eastern part of the United States. Whenever when we've seen the polar vortex in this type of orientation, and we've seen it a few times this month, and it's brought down cold air masses. So this, if this worked out, if this couples with the lower atmosphere, it might suggest that we will go into a colder pattern the first week of January. But it's not the only player in the game. We don't know if it's going to couple or not. Not seeing, some runs say yes, and you see it go to the next run and it says no. So we'll keep an eye on how this all evolves in the coming days. There are some hints that maybe we'll get into some changes when we get into January. I just hope, for the sake of snow lovers, that this does not become another year where it's like, we're waiting forever. We're waiting week after week. It gets pushed back, pushed back, pushed back, and suddenly it's April. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, I've got, now you could bring it up,
I did.
sharing the 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, NOAA's Climate Prediction Center. And folks, what this is telling us, based upon the long range experts over at the Weather Prediction Center, is that it's going to be warm right straight across the entire United States for the final week of 2024. This is valid for December 26th through the first day of January 2025. And for our area, one, two, three, 4, 5. So here in the Northeast, they are forecasting for our part of the country, the northeastern part of the country, a 70 to 80% probability, a likely above chance or probability of above normal temperatures, and
Oh,
that
it's
would
going
be.
to be. There's no 20% chance that there won't be. It's going to be. It will be the case. It's going to be above. Temperatures are going to go above normal after the cold air mass pulls out early next week. There's no question of that.
And in fact, the over the Great Lakes, they've got like 90 to 100%. Look at that. Look at that. Now that's you would say to yourself, okay, final days of December, and where would be the likely spot to have cold weather? Would be in many cases the Great Lakes, or if not that, maybe part of the Northern Plains. There's Minnesota here, Wisconsin, Iowa, and they are at 90 to 100% probability for above normal. So they may be looking at, as the year comes to a close, near record temperatures, high temperatures in this section of the country, as far as the waning days of 2025, 2024 is concerned.
Well, that means all the snow that's falling there tonight into tomorrow morning is going to get washed away.
And here's the precipitation outlook.
Oh,
So
sorry.
on top of the fact that just about all of the contiguous United States will be above normal temperature wise, you've got everybody, well, not everybody, but most areas, seeing an above normal chance for precipitation. So if you were hoping for snow, it doesn't look like, with these kind of temperature extremes that we're going to see that. Only places that are near normal is right along the southeast coastline, and even below normal for western Texas and for the lower end of New Mexico and Arizona and extreme southern sections of California. If you like nice, mild, and dry weather, that's probably the place to be in the final days of 2024's down here over the desert Southwest and into southernmost sections of California.
So if you want to know about next week with regards to where it might be snowing, so starting with Sunday night, you can see the areas. This is 24-hour snow accumulation, so it disappears and then it reappears. You'll see that on Monday, now this is going to be the system for Christmas. Well, let me just roll back. So this is obviously this is Friday night into Saturday in the East. And I'm using the GFS. Uh, then we have the system for we were talking about for possibly New Year's for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and that produces some snow in the Great Lakes. And actually, on the GFS anyway, it does bring some rather hefty amounts in upstate New York. I don't know how real that is, but it does produce a fair amount of snow in areas not that too far north and west of the coast. So we'll watch and see how this little warm front plays because warm fronts can be tricky. You can also see what's going on in the west, in the Rockies and in the Wasatch and also in the Sierra Nevadas. As we move through Christmas Day, looks like they're going to be picking up a lot of snow in the Sierra Nevadas and parts of Nevada and Utah, into Idaho, and the Cascades. So you can climb a mountain if you'd like. And then as we move through next week, all the troughing is in the west. I don't know why it's got this thing over here, 24-hour snowfall, even on 28th is 27th and 28th up in New England, and then you got not much going on in the longer term. So I was hoping that this would finally break the December dry, snowless streak, and having to rely on two minor systems to do it. But you know what? It could happen. We've seen it. We've had minor systems in December produce a few inches of snow in a clip. So we'll I'll be curious to see what the next run of the SREF does because I want to see if it takes these numbers down that it has.
Well, actually, according to our friend Captain Kirk over at Weather Trends 360, the season to date snowfall, we're actually up slightly. Let's underscore that word slightly versus last year, but it's the sixth least snowfall up until right now
What
from
geographic area is he talking about?
the United States as a whole.
Oh, as a
The
whole. Okay.
United States. Sixth
Yeah.
least in 39 years for the nation as a whole. Some very heavy snow has fallen downwind of the Great Lakes so far this season, and the season to date is the snowiest in 5 years for the Northeast. So, in other words, if you factor in all of that heavy snow that's fallen, again, thanks to lake effect, this, according to Captain Kirk, is the snowiest in 5 years for the Northeast. But of course, the I-95 corridor, people are still scratching their heads and saying, will we ever see a significant snowfall? Well, it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing anything substantial or significant aside from maybe that light snow Friday night. We don't look like anything major in the coming days ahead.
By the way, as far as lake effect is concerned, I was just answering Mike Waterhouse Bonsai with the system over the weekend, and the wind is more north northeast. And that, probably produces snow on the south facing shores of Lake Ontario southward. So, places like Rochester, for example, will probably wind up getting some snow in that stretch of the I-90 corridor, maybe back to Syracuse. But I don't think this looks like any kind of big lake effect event that is setting up because of where the high is and where the storm is being as offshore as it is. All right, let's do Brother Jeopardy tonight, which we will continue on the theme of the percentage. This is the percentage chance that there could be snow, 1 inch of snow on the ground on Christmas Day, Joe. And we're going to start with Boston. The chance of 1 inch of snow on the ground.
Well, now, if last night is correct, New York, according to these calculations, had 11%.
But
So
that was actually snowing on Christmas Day.
well, is that what we're talking about here?
I think
Snowing
that's what we
actually?
were talking about yesterday. Here we're talking about the chance of 1 inch of snow on the ground.
Well, how about for Boston? I would say 30%.
It's too high. Too high for at 30%. All right. All you guys are throwing up numbers in the 30s and 40s. You're too high. Helen Bertona, you're practically there at 20. You're practically there at 20. In fact, I'll give you plus or minus a couple of percent. Ring the bell for Helen Bertona because
I
it's
will ring it.
19. 19.
Wow, that's pretty good.
All
Pretty
right.
good.
Minneapolis, the chance for 1 inch of snow on the ground on Christmas Day.
Uh, Minneapolis. That could be kind of tough because Minneapolis is, a place that tends to get their snow not necessarily early in the winter, but more likely later in the winter season, I think. So, am I actually hearing from up? I'm hearing the show from upstairs. Renata is playing that. It's so loud that I can actually hear it from down here. Minneapolis. How about Joe? Um, 47%.
Oh, well, I'm going to assume that that's a dyslexic 47 because it's 74. So Helen Bertona at 76 and Alan had said 75. So we could give them a bell ring again.
Here we
Oh, and
go.
Northern Grace said 75. Adam Lowe said 73. Okay, these should be relatively easy. The next two, Marquette, Michigan.
Oh, Marquette gets snow even in August.
Right.
How about for them? How about yeah? Thanks a lot, Steve Lapointe, saying I went off the cliff. How about 82%?
Not high enough.
Not
Not
high
high
enough.
enough. Rothmansky, 96%. You ring the bell for Rich.
Here you go, Rich.
John Melander at 95. So, 96. Uh, okay. So Fairbanks, Alaska.
Fairbanks, Alaska. Well, what is Fairbanks? 99.
And ring the bell for yourself, 99.
Yay.
All right. Okay. So this one is interesting because we don't often mention cities in this part of the country. And then of course there's a lot of mountains, so a lot of depends on where this you're located with respect to the mountains, because there might be a shadow of some kind. Casper, Wyoming.
Oh, Casper. Well, the fact you mentioned that there might be a shadow or whatever. How about
I could have also said that to confuse you.
yeah, you could have 70. I'll say 75%. What the heck?
Well, it's not a bad guess. Actually, Steve Lapointe is one too high. Craig Carlberg is one too low. See now, Craig, if you were a seasoned meteorologist, you might have gotten it on the nose, like I did last night. The answer is 64 for Casper, Wyoming. 64.
Yes.
So there you have it. I have no bonuses. So anyway, are you done with your Christmas shopping, or you don't do that?
Uh, my daughter and I usually take a Saturday in December where we go shopping for Mrs. Rayo,
Well, you're
and
only, you're down to one.
and so this is it. This is going to be the last chance on Saturday. Although I suspect that before we go shopping, we'll be doing a little bit of shoveling. So
Right.
Whatever. But we're
Well,
gonna.
I got the last gift that I was waiting for came in the mail today, and I wrapped it, and it's under the tree, and everything is done. So I am just I'm all finished. I'm nothing left as far as
I,
everybody's got their gifts. Everything is all set.
I see
It's
Mr. Tolerus is on the chat board now
Oh, what's
tonight.
he up? What's he up to? Where is he? I don't see
He's,
him. Oh, there he is. Yes,
there is no God.
yes, the David. I guess that's not exactly a revelation coming from you. I pray for Dave, but I don't have that kind of time. Anyhow, he loves to pop in. I love Dave knows that I love him almost as much as I love my laundry. So anyway, uh, I guess we can wrap it up for tonight, shall we?
Surely we'll be back tomorrow for the last time until
All right,
after.
don't forget, folks, after tomorrow, unless Le Plumes tomorrow night say that we need to maybe be on Friday night, um, which I would probably say, you know what, I'm not doing it anyway. Uh, yeah, you know what, we're done after tomorrow. I don't care what happens on Friday. We're done after tomorrow. I need the time off. You need the time off. It's Christmas. So tomorrow night we'll be here. After tomorrow night, we're going to be off until the day after Christmas, the 26th. So we'll be back on Thursday, the 26th.
We'll be
Okay.
back on Boxing Day.
We'll be back on Boxing Day. So everybody have a great night. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow. Night, night.
Good night, folks.